Welcome to another edition of E.W. Jackson for America. Great to be with you again this morning. Hope that you are off to a great start for the day. Remember, this is the day that the Lord has made. We are glad and we rejoice in it. In spite of all the problems that our country is facing, in spite of all the challenges that we have, rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. Because we've already won. The victory is already ours. The rest is gravy. So I like to say, look, I'm on my way to heaven. The rest is gravy. I get to spend eternity with Almighty God. And I'm filled with the joy of the Lord. The joy of the Lord is our strength. So don't let things get you down. Don't let them get you discouraged. Don't despair. The Bible says that God laughs at the plans of men. You laugh too. Laugh at all their mad, weird, crazy plans and ideas, because all of it is going to ultimately come to naught. None of it is going anywhere. Here's the thing. You and I are right, and they are wrong. It is just that plain and simple. And not because we have a superior opinion, but because the Word of God is true, and all things that contradict it are false. I mean, there you go. It's very simple. It's axiomatic. Well, look, I've got some issues I want to talk to you about today. Now, since I'm no longer in the presidential campaign, it's been narrowed down to, as far as I'm concerned, only one candidate now, Donald Trump. He has really, for all practical purposes, won the Republican nomination. And I'm not 100% because, of course, politics is very unpredictable. But I would say the probabilities are 99% likely that he will go on to complete the process and walk away with the nomination. And then, unless things change dramatically, Donald Trump will be president of the United States again. Now, that's not a prophetic utterance, but that's how I see it. That's what I think. That is what I think is going to happen. So I want to talk a little bit about Donald Trump, but before I get to that, let me talk about something that really, this really had me going this morning. I'm thinking to myself, what in the world are we doing in our country? Ilhan Omar, who, she wouldn't be important except that she is a United States Congresswoman. She is a U.S. representative. She's a naturalized citizen. She's from Somalia. Here is what she said recently. And I don't know to whom she said this. I have a feeling it was not intended for public consumption, but somebody apparently got a hold of it. Quote, "The U.S. government will only do what Somalians in the U.S. tell them to do. They must do what we want and nothing else. They must follow our orders, and that is how we will safeguard the interests of Somalia. We Somalians must have that confidence in ourselves that we call for the shots in the U.S. Sleep in comfort, knowing that I am here to protect the interests of Somalia from inside the U.S. system." We Somalians. The woman's not an American. She doesn't see herself as an American. She sees herself as a Somalian operating, as she puts it, inside the U.S. system. Now, Ron DeSantis said that she should be deported, but Ron DeSantis is a little late to the party. Those of you who've been watching me for a while, I've been calling for Ilhan Omar's, for the revoking of her citizenship and her deportation for I don't know how long, maybe as long as she's been in office. I've declared the woman is a traitor to the United States of America. She does not belong here. We made a mistake allowing her to come here. We saved her life, and this is how she repays us for it. She basically backstabs the American people who gave her the privilege of American citizenship, and essentially is saying out loud that she is really here as an operative for Somalia, the nation that would have killed her. I mean, that's why, that, at least as far as we know, unless she is a plant, she had to escape from Somalia. It is a war-torn nation. In fact, it's really hard to call it a nation at this point. It's just, I don't know what to call it. It's just a chaotic situation. What I said is, and I actually put this in policy terms, we've got to stop granting absolute and permanent citizenship to naturalized citizens and give them probationary citizenship, which means that they enjoy all the rights and privileges of an American citizen. However, that citizenship is subject to revocation based upon certain things happening. If that person proves to be a criminal, if that person proves to be a traitor to the United States of America, if that person proves to have, as this woman does, allegiances to other nations that supersede her allegiance to the United States of America, then that person can be brought into a process in which their citizenship is revoked and they are deported. Period. So, well, that might be hard to do. It might be, but that ought to hang over their heads for all of their lives. That means their children would be born citizens while in this probationary season, but that person could not claim permanent, irrevocable citizenship as long as they live, as far as I'm concerned. I used to say 10 years, but as far as I'm concerned, it ought to be for the rest of their lives. If you're a naturalized citizen, you are a probationary citizen for the rest of your life. Now, once you pass away and your children are born here, they are permanent citizens born in the United States of America to an American citizen. Because that's the only way you're going to deal with people like this. So, thanks, Ron DeSantis, for suggesting that something needs to be done. He's no longer running for president. But I'll tell you, this is why I didn't get any traction. This is why the media didn't want to cover me. Because, see, Ron DeSantis is saying this now. He's no longer president. I was saying it before I was running, said it during I was running. I said I would seek a constitutional amendment to do away with anchor babies. That whole process. To make the policy, to make clear that you are not an American citizen by virtue of being born here. You are only an American citizen if you are born to one biological parent who is already an American citizen. And if that's not the case, I don't care how long you come and visit and stay, your child is not an American citizen by virtue of your visiting in this country when the child is born. Period. I mean, this is a travesty. The 14th Amendment was meant to secure the citizenship of Africans who had come here, had been slaves, and set free, to make clear that they were citizens of the United States of America. Not for this nonsense. So, obviously, I'm not running anymore, but something has got to be done, folks. Something has got to be done. This situation with Ilhan Omar and the fact that the whole nation is not outraged by it. Now, maybe a lot of people don't know it because the mainstream media is not going to promote that kind of stuff because they're afraid that people won't like it. See, they're afraid that maybe even some of their own viewers won't like it. But this should create such a hue and cry when you've got a sitting member of the House of Representatives making declarations of allegiance to another country and, in effect, being in America only for the purpose of serving that other country. We've got a problem. We have got a very serious problem. And this woman is a sold-out leftist, a communist, a Marxist. I mean, this woman she is in every sense of the word a traitor to the United States of America. Now, whether she's done anything that rises to the level of treason, but in my view, to have your citizenship revoked under my policies would require that you commit legal treason, but just that you demonstrate a lack of loyalty to the United States of America. And it wouldn't be based upon party. It would be based upon your behavior and your utterances. And I think Ilhan Omar rises to the level of someone who ought to have her citizenship revoked and ought to be sent packing. Send her back to Somalia. You represent Somalia, go back there and represent them. So I wanted to get that on the table because it just irks me that we have people like this inside of our government. No wonder we're in such trouble. And she's got a lot of allies who will defend her to the hilt. And pointing out her traitorous behavior, you're a racist. And I guess I'm a sellout because you're a black man. You ought to be supporting her. Look, I could care less about all that nonsense. That to me is just that is complete irrational thinking bordering on the insane. She happens to be black, and so whatever she says and does, I ought to support, please. I told you all before, the most prolific serial killer in the history of America was a guy named Sam Little, who had 93 documented kills, and he was black. Should I support him? After all, he is a black man. I mean, Lord have mercy. The data has been fairly consistent for the last 30 years, sadly. 52% of homicides are committed by young black men. Well, a smattering of those by women, but overwhelmingly the homicides in America are committed by one demographic group, and that sadly is young black men. Should I deny that if they're black? You shouldn't point that out. They're only in prison because of injustice. No, they're in prison because they're murderers. And they're robbers. And they belong in prison. I just saw a documentary not too long ago of 3 guys who wanted to carjack this couple. I think it was an Hispanic couple, if I'm not mistaken. But these 3 black guys wanted to carjack this couple because they wanted the Mustang that they were driving. A 15-year-old goes up to the car and realizes he can't get the car because it's a stick shift. He doesn't know how to drive the car. And apparently later testified because the guy didn't seem afraid enough for him that he should have been intimidated with the gun sticking in his face. He killed both the passengers. The man, I think it his wife or his girlfriend, killed them both on the 15 years old. He got life in prison without the possibility of parole, and he should have gotten life in prison without the possibility of parole. And he doesn't get my support because he happens to have a dark skin. I mean, this stuff is just, it's madness. And Cori Bush is claiming the same thing now because she apparently, just like Fonnie Willis, you know, they think that the taxpayer money is so they can reward their boyfriends or their husbands or whatever. She has used this whole security thing, just like Black Lives Matter did. Apparently that's a boondoggle that they use. I'll tell you what, Bob, you can be my security, okay? And I'll pay you $500,000 a year. Wink, wink, nod, nod. And she's apparently done the same thing. And she's under investigation now. But it's only because of white people. Oh. And these people run around, first of all, telling everybody else that they don't need guns, and we got to outlaw guns, and we got to outlaw assault weapons and all this stuff. Are only too happy to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for somebody to be near them that's carrying a weapon to defend them if need be. And then want to lecture us, well, get over it, get over it. No, you get over it. I'm an American citizen with the Second Amendment liberty, which, by the way, the Constitution didn't give me, God gave me, but thank God I have a Constitution that I live under that recognizes that God-given right. And so you get over it, because I have a right to keep and bear arms, to defend myself, to defend my family against crime and tyranny. Thank you very much. Okay, all right, I wanted to get that little pet peeve out of the way. And you know, and here's where this takes me. The fact that people are outraged is an indication, in my view, of the ongoing effort to demoralize the American people and convince us that loyalty to our country is not important. It's just not important. It just doesn't matter. Folks, I can't emphasize too much what a dangerous place that is to be. I really cannot. Because no matter how wealthy a nation is, no matter how many arms you have, when a nation is demoralized, it cannot defend itself because people don't have the will to defend their nation. And I don't have time to go into it, but that's exactly what happened in France during World War II. That's why Hitler was able to march into France and take over in 6 weeks. Because they were already demoralized from within, and Hitler understood that. His generals didn't, but he did. He read it right. They were already demoralized from within. In France, many French officials cooperated with the Nazis. Because what difference does it make? As long as I can stay alive. But we need our country to feel it in the marrow of our bones. What Patrick Henry said, as for me, give me liberty or give me death. Period. I'd rather die than live on my knees before some tyrannical, totalitarian force. I'd rather die fighting for my liberty than to live as a slave. And I'd rather die fighting for my country than to surrender it to people who would enslave us all. I mean, I've said before, these people always talk they just can't get over it. I responded to something on Instagram talking about the archway in St. Louis, Missouri, and how it represented slavery and subjugation. It was the gateway to the West where they were subjugating Indians. And I said to this individual, I don't even know what his name is. And you have people, thank you for dropping knowledge. And I said, when are you going to stop whining about the past that cannot be changed and start working toward the future? I mean, telling everybody there's nothing wrong with knowing that history, but you're not just giving people information just for information. You're giving them information to demoralize them. You're giving them information to convince them that, see, America is so inherently racist. Everything you see is racist. Everything is based upon racism. And so instead of being grateful that we live in the greatest land of opportunity in the history of mankind, they want to teach people how to whine about what happened. And a lot of times they don't have their facts straight anyway. I mean, a lot of times it's just a whole bunch of exaggerated nonsense for the purpose, again, of demoralizing people and convincing people that America is not worth fighting for, America is not worth dying for, America is not worth upholding, preserving. I always say, these idiots don't know. You bring the thing crashing down, it's going to crash on your head too. But at any rate, so just wanted to put that. And by the way, the same thing is true for the people who aren't alarmed by what's happening at the border. It's the same deal. You aren't alarmed by what's happening at the border because they no longer have any fealty, any sense of loyalty to the sovereignty of the United States of America, to the preservation of their own nation. They just don't think in those terms. They're globalists. They think, oh, well, I'm a citizen of the world. Well, there's no such thing. You can't be a citizen. The word citizen comes from city. The first real organized governmental entities were city-states with walls around them that were governed usually by a king that governed that city. So a citizen was a member of that particular city-state. Now it applies, of course, to membership, if you will, in any governmental entity or nation, organized nation. So you can be a citizen of the United States of America. I don't know what they call them in China, slave, I guess. And Cuba, slave, I guess. I don't know what they call them because they're not really citizens, because citizen implies a certain level of freedom, at least in modern times. But you can be a citizen of America. You can be a citizen of France. You can be a citizen of England. You can't, well, I guess England, you're subjects. You're subjects of the Queen. I won't go any further with that one. Not me. But my point is, we owe our loyalty first and foremost as a nation to our own country. And anybody who doesn't like that and wants to turn it into something ugly, and you know, they're just idiots. Don't turn that's the equivalent of being a Nazi. I mean, I've used the analogy before. I mean, that's like saying to me, if I say, well, I got to look out for my own home first. And somebody says, you hate your neighbor? No, it has nothing to do with my neighbor. I don't hate my neighbor. In fact, I got good neighbors. I like them. But I don't owe them the same level of loyalty that I owe to my own home. I got to take care of my own home first. You know, that old saying, charity begins at home, then spreads abroad. I mean, there's nothing ugly or sinister or xenophobic or racist or Christian nationalist, as they would imply what that means, about that. It's just common sense. But of course, we know common sense is completely out the window because these people have lost their minds. They had no ability to think rationally because they're fools and slaves for the devil. And as I said, he's not a rational thinker, because if he were, he would never have thought he could topple God. You've got to be an idiot to believe that. Okay, enough there. I wanted to talk about, you know, the Harvard Chief Diversity Officer is now also in the hot seat being accused of plagiarism because apparently she borrowed whole sections, some of which she borrowed from her husband, didn't attribute, didn't quote, didn't footnote, as if these were her own words when they were not her words at all. She borrowed them wholesale from someone else's work. Her husband was one of those people. And you know, it struck me, this is the person who runs the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I said they ought to change the name from DEI to DDI, which is the Office of Dumb, Derelict, and Incompetent. Because as far as I'm concerned, that's all this stuff is. It's just a boondoggle to keep the natives happy. Let's create these $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year positions. Let's stick, and another woman, by the way. Black men are starting to gravitate toward Trump more because I think they can see what the game the Democrats are playing. They're playing a game of emasculating black men by elevating black women. And if you happen to be a lesbian and a black woman, then, oh my goodness gracious, that, you know, you've got, you know, it's like, that's golden. You got a double hit. Oh, and if you happen to be black and a gender confused, and I don't even know, lesbian, homosexual, whatever, but that's it. I mean, that's all she wrote. That's a grand slam home run. But nowhere in that equation are real men. Oh, you can have a man like Barack Obama, who is just a little effeminate thing. You could have a man like that, you know, who exercises like Tinkerbell. Did you all see the video? Go look it up. Did the video? So yeah, man like that, right? I mean, that's perfectly acceptable. But a real man who happens to be black, who's not ashamed of his manhood, not trying to be anything else, not confused about who and what he is. You don't see the Democrat Party promoting those folks. No, 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 no. If you're a black man and you want to get promoted into the Democrat Party, here's my suggestion. Go buy yourself a dress and get yourself some makeup and a wig and go to the Democrat Party headquarters dressed up like that, and I guarantee you're liable to, I mean, they're liable to promote you to some great commission or something because you're what they're looking for. It's sad. And all you black Christians who keep going along with this idolatrous, demonic party, you better get a revelation before it's too late, because it may be telling you that you're on your way to hell and you think you're going to heaven, and you're not going to make it because you don't know God. Because you can't know God and associate with that filth and associate with that degeneracy and that depravity and help promote it and support it and finance it. I don't know what you're going to, but maybe there is a church hidden in there somewhere, whatever that place you're going to, where all that stuff is sanctioned. But I tell you what, as far as I'm concerned, it's nothing but a counterfeit. Because if it weren't, your pastor would be telling you you can't kill an unborn baby and stand before God and call yourself a Christian. And say how somehow that's all right, you're proud of it. Well, I have my own convictions, but I don't want to stop anybody else from doing. Oh, please. That is such a cowardly cop-out. Like you see somebody committing murder, you say, well, I don't think murder is right, but who am I to stop this person? Who am I to interfere? At any rate, how about that? DDI, let's call them DDI officers. Dumb, derelict, and incompetent. That makes me chuckle a little bit because that's really what they are. And it struck me, I hadn't thought about this before, but it is my guess that, first of all, and most of these offices, of course, are run by women. I guess if you're a homosexual or you're a gender-confused individual, I guess you would be eligible because, you have the proper sensitivity. But you know what they would, if somebody knows of one of these run by a white male, please let me know. I mean, a white heterosexual male. I guarantee you they're not, because they're probably not qualified. From their perspective. How can you be qualified to run a diversity, equity, and inclusion office, aka a dumb, derelict, and incompetence office, if you're white? I mean, I can't, in fact, even if you're just a straight heterosexual white woman, you probably wouldn't qualify. But if you're a man, you definitely would not qualify. So the whole thing is just, it's a boondoggle. It's just, all they're doing is enshrining division and discrimination and trying to put a little patina on it that makes it seem like it's such a lofty thing that we're doing. It's just a base, crass, racist thing that they're doing. And they're finding out that the people they're putting into these highly paid positions are incompetents. That's all they can do probably, is play the race card. That's all they know how to do. Because they're not trained and educated enough to do anything else. And what education they've got, apparently, is, at least in some of these cases, they cheated their way into that. I don't know why they have to do that. It seems to me affirmative action would have been enough to overcome whatever their deficits were. But no, that's not enough. We're going to still lie and plagiarize and cheat and steal in order to get it. Sad. Let me just give you this woman's name so that you know. We'll see what happens as a result of this. But the accusations have been made. Her name is Sherry Ann Charleston. And official complaint has been filed for plagiarism, in which she claimed credit for work that her husband did, taking large portions of text of his work without attributing it or giving him credit for it, acting like it was all done by her. And I've said before, folks, that's theft. That's theft. And the thing is, parts of it were published previously by, actually published previously. And she lifted whole sections, not only from her husband's, but from other scholars' work. Peter Wood, head of the National Association of Scholars, said the 2014 paper she did appears to be entirely counterfeit. He called it research fraud, pure and simple. And she is Harvard's chief diversity officer, Sherry Ann Charleston. Well, when you got a chaplain who's a counterfeit chaplain, yeah, you got a chaplain who's an atheist, what else is left? I mean, why would you expect anything to go well? Now, I have not talked much about the campaign because, of course, I was a candidate myself, and I was hedging and waiting to see how things were going to unfold before I jumped in. I have now jumped in and officially endorsed Donald Trump because, as I said, I would not vote for Nikki Haley under any circumstances. And if she were to actually win the nomination, I would be hard-pressed. And I doubt that I'd vote in such an election. I doubt it. It's a long way between now and then, so I'm leaving myself a little bit of room because, you know, you keep learning, you keep growing, maybe you hear more. But right now, based on where I am now, I could not vote for Nikki Haley because I don't trust her. Say, but wouldn't Biden be worse? I don't know. Who would be worse? The wolf you know or the wolf you don't? I don't know. I certainly am not going to vote for the wolf I don't know, the wolf I do know, and I can't imagine why I would vote for the wolf I don't know. I mean, they're both wolves. But here's what I want to get to. This woman, E. Jean Carroll, who has won an $83 million lawsuit against Donald Trump. Now, I got an email yesterday from a young lady saying, would you please help us to answer people who say, well, how can you as Christians support Donald Trump given the things that he's done? And here's one example of it. E. Jean Carroll has won an $83 million lawsuit against Donald Trump for an alleged rape that he committed against her, sexual assault, in the Bergdorf Goodman dressing room. How can you support a man like that? So let me give you my take on this, and I'll come back to this and address this from time to time because it will need to be addressed from time to time. It goes without saying, I am a born-again, spirit-filled believer. I love the Lord. I owe my first loyalty to him, not to Donald Trump or anybody else, not even to my own wife and children, although I love them dearly. But I owe my first loyalty to Jesus Christ. And I've often said that when you put him first, everything else falls into its proper place. Then you know how to love your wife or your husband or your children or your parents or your friends. You know how to love people because the love of God's been shed abroad in our hearts through the Holy Spirit. Whereas without God, putting everything else first, it just becomes a form of idolatry and often just selfishness. So I don't owe my first loyalty to my race. I don't owe my first loyalty to the Republican Party or again, or anything. My first loyalty is to Jesus Christ, and that ought to be the attitude of every Christian. Well, then, if that's the case, how can you support Donald Trump? Well, here's the number one reason, and I've got several of them, but here's number one. Every single person on earth has things that you've done that you wish you hadn't done. Now, when I say that, I can see every one of you saying, "Oh, ooh, you got that right, preacher. You got that right." Every single one of us. There is none righteous, no, not one. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. So how in the world can I hold Donald Trump to the standard of perfection that I myself could not meet? Now, I'm not saying that you or I, because I certainly haven't, have committed any crimes or things such as what Donald Trump has been accused of, groping women and saying some of the lewd things we've heard him say. But, the point is this. Every single person has sinned, and nobody lives up to the standard of perfection that people are trying to hold Donald Trump to. I would never disqualify a candidate because they are accused of something in their past or have done something in their past. I would look at the totality of that person's character, and in Donald Trump's case, we've got something else to look at, his record. His record, what he intends to do. And we know what he intends to do based upon what he's done in the past. So I hold up, 12, 13 years ago, he said something to somebody in the car about what he could do to women. And now, I forget how this goes back 30 years. This woman's claiming he did this to her and that to her. And there have been other accusations thrown out there. I mean, he ended up having to settle with this former stripper or whatever she was. But look, all of that is in his past. I am not trying to elect a pastor, although I was running, but I wasn't running to be pastor of America, although in some ways America may need a pastor. But I'm not trying to find a pastor. Let's put it this way. I'm not supporting Donald Trump as a pastor for our country. I'm supporting Donald Trump as a political leader for our country, okay? And as a political leader, I am not holding against him anything or any accusations that people have made in his past. In my view, they are not disqualifying. So that's number one. Let's just say, even if he did everything that he's accused of doing, okay, even if he did do that, I would be supporting him based upon his present track record of what he wants to do and has done for America. Because right now, America needs a leader that cares about our country. So that's number one. Even if, now that's just arguendo, even if this woman who's accused him, something went down in that dressing room, and I can't imagine it was a violent sexual assault, because how in the world are you going to violently sexually assault somebody in the dressing room of a department store? I mean, come on. That doesn't even pass the smell test. So here's the second thing. I believe virtually none of what is said against Donald Trump. I believe virtually none of it. So I said, even if it were all true, right now I'd still be supporting him as president, because that his past record doesn't mean as much to me as what his record as a politician and a president means to me. I want somebody who's going to preserve this nation. I want somebody who's going to uphold the rule of law. I want somebody who's going to follow the Constitution of the United States of America. And I want somebody who's going to defend America's interests. He's going to put America first. He meets all those qualifications. Here's the second thing. I don't believe any of these accusations anyway. I believe that they so hate the man and they're so out to get the man that they'll say anything. Did you see this woman? I saw a clip of this woman on, what was she on? Oh, on Rachel Maddow's program. I could play around with her name, but oh my goodness, what a horrible, horrible person. Oh, woman needs deliverance bad. And she was talking about what she's going to do with the $83 million. And she would buy Rachel Maddow a condo or something, a penthouse on the French Riviera, and she would take them fishing, and she would put people. I mean, they were just laughing about all what she was going to do with all that money. I don't think she's going to see a dime of that money, but they're just laughing about what they're going to do with all that money. And I'm thinking to myself, well, how crass can you be? Oh, and first there was a shopping spree. And I'm thinking, but if you got raped, if you got sexually assaulted while you were shopping, isn't that a little crass to say the first thing you're going to do is go shopping? Isn't that where you claim you were traumatized? But you're all laughing and joyful about going shopping. I mean, something just doesn't wash there anyway. It just doesn't wash there. And the fact that Donald Trump settled things, I mean, look, it's what you have to do in the legal world when you got to cut your losses. Now, would I do it? I don't know. I haven't confronted those kinds of situations, thank God. But as a former practicing attorney, I understand it. Because sometimes you have to advise clients to try to settle things in order to get it off their plate. So, but do I believe the accusations made against him? Most of them, no. I am, frankly, more concerned about some of the dumb things Donald Trump says from time to time than I am about the things people have accused him of, because I think they'll just accuse him of anything. I mean, they're liable to accuse him of having killed Grandma Moses. I mean, I don't think there's anything they won't do in order to try to destroy that man, because he's in the way of their plans for America. What they really want to destroy is you and me. Patriots all over this country are standing up for America and seeing Donald Trump a leader who will represent that viewpoint. And so they hate him because they hate us. They don't want us to have any political leadership that is willing to do that, because they don't want to preserve America as a constitutional republic. They want something different, and he's in the way. They want a democracy, which what that really means is they want mob rule, and they want to be the mob to rule it. That's what it really means. Mob rule, and we'll be the mob to rule it. So that's the second thing. But here's the third thing. We as Christians must forgive. Even if, now he denies this whole thing with this woman, E. Jean Carroll, but I mean, the man was impeached twice. They've now got 4 different cases pending against him. We're trying to bring criminal charges against him. They're trying to claim that he's incited an insurrection. I mean, all this stuff. But we as Christians, even if we think that Donald Trump has said some things, done some things wrong, we're required to forgive. You say, well, he hasn't asked for forgiveness. Well, I don't know what he said to God, but I don't read anywhere in the Bible where forgiveness requires that a person ask for it from you and me. Jesus didn't say, forgive them only if they ask you, and if they don't ask you, you can hate their guts. It's okay. Right? No. He said, forgive. He said, if you do not forgive others their trespasses, neither will your heavenly Father forgive you your trespasses. We're supposed to be people of forgiveness. So, wait a minute, do you apply that to the other side? I certainly do. I certainly do. I really do. Doesn't mean I support what they're doing. It doesn't mean I trust people who do things that require my forgiveness. But look, I don't hate anybody. And I'm not in a state of unforgiveness toward anybody. I can't. I've got a commandment that I operate under. You have to forgive. How can in the world can you do that with given what people will do to you? Well, you do it by faith. You take the principle stand of forgiveness, and you understand something, that your feelings are not the measure of your forgiveness. Your faith is. Because once you take the faith stand to forgive, your feelings will fight you. But so what? My feelings fight me all the time, don't yours? In fact, if you haven't had a good fight with your feelings lately, you must not be you must not be doing it right. You must be surrendering if you haven't had a good fight with your feelings. To tell your feelings, shut up. You don't control me. My faith in Jesus Christ controls me, controls my attitude, controls my approach to life. And you're not going to talk to me and get me down and depressed and despairing over this, that, and the other. I'm not buying it. The joy of the Lord is my strength. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus, for all of your goodness and kindness and mercy toward me. You forgive. You just do it. You just do it because God commanded you to do it. And you know what I've learned over the years? When you do that and you take that principle stand and you refuse to let feelings get in the way, eventually the feelings shut up. And the forgiveness takes root. It's already rooted in your spirit, but it takes root in your mind, in your will, in your emotions, and you no longer have those angry feelings about what somebody has done for you. They dissipate. So, look, there's some things Donald Trump has said that I don't like, but I forgive him. I forgive him. And I think Donald Trump has a whole lot to offer this country. I forgive Joe Biden the dumb things and stupid, venal, vicious things he said. But I don't think he has anything to offer this country, and I think he needs to go. He needs to be voted out of office. Just because I forgive. Look, somebody breaks into your home and hurts a member of your family, does something to you. You know what? You're required to forgive them too. But it doesn't mean you try to keep them out of jail. Because that's where they belong. You get my point? In other words, forgiveness doesn't mean persons shouldn't suffer the consequences of their actions, as in this case with Joe Biden, the consequences being having wrecked the country over the last 4 years, he should be voted out of office. Absolutely. But he won't go out with me hating him. Hate what he did, hate what he's doing, but I don't hate him. I can't. As Christians, we just can't do that. All right, that's going to do it. I'm already a couple minutes over. Well, listen, God bless each and every God bless each and every one of you. Go to our website to find out more about what we're doing, standamerica.us, America's Forgotten Children. You can get my book at faithfultext.com or wherever books are sold, and you can get it on Amazon. You can also get it as a free gift when you sign up for standamerica.us as a Patriot partner. I'm here every morning, 8:30 a.m. Mondays. We play the sermon from Sunday. And, of course, I'm at my church I feel like a conductor. I'm at my church on Sunday mornings at 11 a.m., 943 Canal Drive in Chesapeake, Virginia. Come on by and see what the Lord is doing with our ministry. And let God bless you. And in the meantime, stand up, step up, speak up. Refuse to back up, because we cannot be defeated if we will not quit, because we are on God's side.